There are 18 types in Pokémon, which means there's 171 different type combinations. With over 1,000 Pokémon, it's hard to believe that there are any type combinations we haven't seen, but there are still 9 of them. I'm gonna fix it. Normal is a very diverse type, because you get everything from normal animals such as pigs to God, or Dunsparce. Looking into it, there are actually a couple of Pokemon that fit the normal ice type. First of all, we have Castform's Hail form. Now it could make sense for each of the forms to gain the secondary typing of the weather instead of being a monotype. Saying that, Castform is literally based on a water molecule, hence its booby shape. So when it changes form, it's literally turning into a gas, liquid, and a solid. And with this in mind, it's literally turning into just pure ice. Mono ice makes sense. But luckily for us, we don't even have to consider Castform because there is a Pokemon so perfect that to this day I am baffled how it was never made a normal ice type in the first place. And that is Beartick. Look, if you think about it, Beartick is just Ursaring with a cold, even the stat spread is very, very similar. And if these Pokemon can be considered normal type, then I'm sure the Ursine Ice Cream can be as well. Let's take Pyroar as an example. I see it as a normal type that can breathe fire, as opposed to a fire type that is slightly normal. And I see the same thing in Beartick. I see it as a normal bear with ice powers rather than an ice bear with normal powers. I guess what I'm trying to explain really badly is that on a scale between normal and ice, it verges more on normal than it does ice. So why isn't it a normal ice type? Next up is the normal bug type, which is a lot more complex than it sounds, because there are many regular bugs that we could slap the normal typing on. Metapod, Caterpie, Wurmple, that type of thing. The issue is if we give the normal bugs the normal bug typing because they're normal bugs, what then qualifies as a monobug? So we can't use a regular bug for the normal bug type, but what we can use is sound. You see, sound-based Pokemon such as Exploud and Meloetta, and sound-based moves like Screech and Boomburst are all considered normal type. Now surely, if I say think of a sound-based bug in the Pokemon universe, there is one that comes to mind. Normal rock type is the easiest type we're going to assign in this video because we already have the perfect Pokemon for the typing, and that is Lycanroc, specifically the midday form. This is one of them rare examples where the type that we're adding actually works better than its original typing. Now the reason I say midday Lycanroc is because I feel like the midnight form definitely suits the rock dark type more, maybe even the rock ghost, which is a typing in this video coming up, but I have some better ideas for that typing.
Hi.
What? I'm in the middle of something.
Hello.
So there's one more normal type we need to discuss, and that is the normal steel type. Now there are 2 candidates that I want to talk about, both from Generation 8, but one of them definitely suits the typing better than the other one. In my opinion, both Berserker and Copperaja could definitely pass for normal steel types. Both have obvious ties to the steel type, but are both normal animals to fit that normal typing as well. Out of the 2, however, Copperaja would be my main choice, only because Berserker is a regional Meowth, of which all 3 have their mono typing, but we've already got the normal type Meowth, so we don't really need another one. Going back to Copperaja though, I think even Cufant could be a mono normal type that evolves into a steel type when, I don't know, you level it up while it knows Heavy Slam or something. I think out of all of the options, Copperaja is definitely the most convincing normal steel type, plus of all the Pokemon that deserve Stab, Body Slam, Double Edge, Giga Impact, it's gotta be the big elephant, right? Out of all of the unused typings, I think Fire Fairy is the one that I'm most excited to see in the future, and the one that I'm most shocked we haven't seen in the past. I just feel like the concept of a Fire Fairy type is so open-ended that they could be very adventurous with the Pokemon that they create. In terms of existing Pokemon, I personally think Victini and Delphox would make really cool Fire Fairy types, but I understand why neither of them got the typing. So Delphox was the Fire starter when the Fairy type was first introduced, so maybe it would have been a bit too biased for one of the starters to get the fancy new type, whilst the others get types that are actually weak to Fairy. Yeah, I understand why I didn't get it. Victini, on the other hand, already had a typing that made sense when the Fairy type was introduced, so therefore I don't think they would have changed it because they had no reason to. The only dual-type Pokemon that I know who has had a type change is Togetic and Togekiss. With that in mind, it would be very out of character for Gamefreak to then change the typing of a Pokemon that already has an established dual type. I think the bottom line is that there aren't any existing Pokemon that really fit the Fire Fairy typing, and the ones that do have very valid reasons for not being that type. Ice Poison is a difficult typing, because there aren't any Pokemon that I think fit it perfectly. If you do think of one, let me know in the comments down below. But I think if we have an open mind, we could make Titan work. So the Ice type does make sense. It lives in snowy environments, it eats snow and ice. So what makes it a Poison type? Just big spikes. Look, I did say for this one you're going to need an open mind. It just looks like the type of Pokemon that should be using Poison Jab with them big old spikes on the front. If they just, like, seek poison, you know, you can see it, right? Hopefully, maybe it can get, like, an ice move that has a chance to badly poison, like Cryogenic Barb or Big Spike. Look, either there's no Pokemon that fit the Ice Poison type, or I've just completely missed a Pokemon. If you think of one, let me know. Just like Ice Poison, Ground Fairy gives us problems, because I don't think there's a single Pokemon that fits this to a T. But, bear with me. If I could just suggest a regional form of Sandshrew that is a Fairy Ground type, it could be based on the Pink Fairy Armadillo, which I think is a perfect thing to have a Pokemon based on, and that would be our Ground Fairy type. As it stands with existing Pokemon, our choices are limited. Now, I'm not exactly convinced on this, but we could consider Toedscool and Toedscruel, because they're based on mushrooms, which is where the grass type comes from, and also the ground type, because they're on the ground, I guess. But toadstools are also found a lot in fairy tales. So what if Toedscool was like a magic mushroom? No, can't call it that. What if it was like a non-hallucinogenic legal mushroom from like Alice in Wonderland or something? Something whimsical, but is also on the ground. I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel, but there is nothing else that fits. If you think of something, let me know, because I've clearly missed something. What Pokemon would make a good ground fairy type? What do you want from me? Okay, we're back. I found out why the dog was playing up so much. He really needed a shit. So I've taken him for a walk, got sweaty, changed my shirt. This is where we are. Bon appetit. Bug Dragon. Easy. Flygon, right? Right? I doubt I need to explain this one, but Trapinch is based on an antlion, which to me is kind of a bug. If I had my way, Trapinch would be a bug ground type, Vibrava, bug ground type, Flygon, bug dragon, because it's not on the ground anymore, it's flying. Flygon, you get it? It's in the air. It can't be a flying type really, because that's lame. Dragon. That's it. But that being said, I think Yanmega does deserve and need it more, because bug flying is such a boring type, man. It's been done so many times. I just feel like it being another bug flying type makes it so forgettable. If it was the only bug dragon type, we would talk about it a lot more. And I feel like with a design like that, it deserves to be talked about. Rock Ghost is the type that I'm most shocked that we haven't seen yet, because there are so many Pokemon that could fit this typing. First up, we have the most literal Pokemon of the typing, and that is Spiritomb, who is quite literally a ghost in a rock. Now, the reason I'm saying this Pokemon first is because I don't actually think it's a good idea as a ghost rock type. Although it is a rock and a ghost, the rock isn't a part of the Pokemon. Spiritomb as the Pokemon is bound to the rock, and the rock is completely separate to Spiritomb as the Pokemon. It's a ghost dark type that is bound to a rock. The rock is just an addition. If Spiritomb was going to be a rock type, Farfetch should be a grass type, Conkeldurr should be a steel type. You see the problem. Now, if we did want a rock infused with a ghost, Runeragus might tick our boxes. All we need to do is find out if this substance is a rock. Now, I think we can both agree that Yamask and Runeragus are made out of the same material. If you check Yamask's Pokedex description, it says in Sword, a clay slab with cursed engravings. In Shield, it says that it's made out of an ancient clay tablet. So therefore, Yamask, we can safely say, is made out of clay. At least the rock part of it is made out of clay. Therefore, Runeragus is probably also made out of clay. So is clay a rock? No, it's not a rock. From what I can find out, it's more of a soil than it is a rock, and soil is kind of ground. I think Pokemon might be right on this one. I think clay is more of a ground type than it is rock. And plus, the other clay Pokemon we got is a ground type, so maybe we've got to take the L on this one. Maybe Runeragus is more suited to ground ghost. Now, what if instead of Runeragus, we instead looked at Relicanth? Now, I know what you're thinking. It's a fish, therefore it's a water type because it lives under the ocean. Yeah, that's logical. But what if we get like really spicy and just like twist its lore a tiny bit? So take Dragapult for example. It used to live in the ocean before it was a ghost, therefore I would assume it would be a water dragon type. It died, it became a ghost dragon type. What if Relicanth did the same thing? Relicanth is very, very old, and the reason it's a rock type is because it's borderline a fossil. But what if this fossil, instead of being an alive fossil, is a dead fossil of a fish? Okay, that idea is shit. But what if Cursula? So the Jotonian Corsola is a rock water type, but then the Galarian Corsola is a ghost type. If we go back to the Dragapult logic, it dropped its water type and replaced it with a ghost type. If we use that logic for Corsola, it should be a rock ghost type. Now if you still need convincing, check out its Pokemon Sword Pokedex entry, which states, watch your step when wandering areas oceans once covered. What looks like a stone could be this Pokemon, and it will curse you if you kick it. Now I don't know about you, but that sounds like the description of a Pokemon that looks like a stone and can curse people. Like a rock ghost type. So now that I've undoubtedly convinced you that Corsola and by extension Cursula should be a rock ghost type, that is all 9 types that are unused by Gamefreak, so let me know if there are any Pokemon that I missed, Pokemon that you think would fit these types, but alas, that's all I've got for you, so bye.